I'm not traveling this week, so that means I get to do more experiments. This week, the Wheel of Food, in its great wisdom, has told me I need to get ahi-grade tuna steaks and asparagus, and then make it Mexican style. So Mexican means things like limes, onions, Fresno or jalapeno peppers, serrano peppers, cilantro, and I even got tomatillos, corn, and I'll be using cumin and chipotle chili. When the Wheel of Food makes me do this, I don't get a recipe. I have to just kind of figure out how to use Mexican ingredients to make a Mexican-style tuna dish. So let's go on this adventure. And by the way, tomatillos, that's the new one to me. So tomatillos come wrapped in a skin. They look like a tomato. They sound like a tomato because they're a tomatillo. But underneath the skin, they tend to be sticky. Yep, sticky, which freaks some people out. Gooseberries, by the way, are the same thing. They also have the skin. They're also sticky underneath, but I think they're actually even related. Anyway, they're fine to eat. You just got to rinse off the stickiness. So I've heard that broiling them for 12 minutes is the way to go, and I'm going to char them up and then turn them into a salsa verde. So my tomatillos are peeled and rinsed and not sticky at all anymore, and they're super cute. So I'm going to cut these down the equator. I like to use a serrated knife for this because it just works better on the tomato flesh, and then I'll get them oiled and salted. So you can judge a tomatillo's freshness by squeezing it. If you look at this very fresh tomatillo, when you squeeze it, not much would happen. But on this one, if you had squeezed it before you bought it, you'd feel all that give. And that's how you can tell this one is fresher. So now you know what you're looking for when you squeeze your tomatillos. All right, tomatillos have been hit with oil and pepper and salt, sea salt, and into the broiler. Now, to prepare asparagus, they say that there's a place where the asparagus will naturally break. You should use 2 hands for this, but as a one-handed chef, I'm relegated to creative things like this. So there it is, broken in half, and then you can keep doing that, but that would take forever. So instead, you take the one you broke, line it up with its brothers and sisters, and you just use a knife to cut off the rest of them. A lot faster, and it should be right around the same spot anyway. I also have heard that skinnier asparagus tends to be a little more tender, a little more sweet. If you do get a thicker asparagus, a lot of chefs will peel each single asparagus to get the outer husk off of there. So, that's a lot of work. Now, look at all these bottoms. You might think to throw that away, but no. I believe we can turn this into an asparagus bottom soup. So I'm going to put these away, and we'll try to do that soup at some point in the future. Minutes later, check out my tomatillos. They are so awesome. They're soft. They're delicate. They get sweeter when you heat them like this as well. So this is going to be totally awesome in my green salsa. For my asparagus, I'm going the pouch method, and that involves putting it into the oven in foil at 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. Now you need a fat and some salt and pepper. So for my fat, I'm going to just use some melted butter. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my salt and pepper all over this. And I'm going to use some of that Fresno pepper. Now, last time I told you guys I had a red jalapeno. Jalapenos do get red when you let them age, and one of my jalapenos got old and red, but this was actually a Fresno. Now, in addition to the butter and the salt, pepper, and the Fresno, how about some fresh lime juice? So now we have our lime Fresno asparagus. Yum. There's lots of tricks for getting the corn off the cob, including putting bowls inside of bowls and upside down, and I find it all very awkward to cut that way. So I just cut my corn in half, and then they fall half the distance, and they don't bounce as far, and so it works out pretty good. Now, how do you cut corn in half? You could mow it this all day, and that's not going to happen. What I learned is you just make a good cut in it, like I've done here, right? And then take your knife out using 2 hands, and then find that spot where you just cut it, and it'll break right in half. Of course, use 2 hands, it'll be a little bit easier. But now when I cut the corn off, it's not going to go very far. So there's my corn all cut up, and I kept it live action. I didn't scoop it back together. Those are the cobs, completely clean, and that is as far as the corn went. I lost 2, 4, 5 to the counter, and that's the farthest one. So yeah, cut it in half, works. I haven't really made any vegetable purees other than mashed potatoes in my life, but it's really simple. You take a vegetable, salt, pepper, and you steam it a little bit, and then you puree it with butter, and if you want, cream or sour cream, something like that, to make it all a bit creamier. So I am going to go ahead and steam my corn and take it into a puree. You also can use chicken stock, by the way, to add some creaminess. Okay, there's my corn and a little bit of cream and a little bit of butter. And I'm putting it on this little black thing so I can try to do this one-handed for you. And in goes my immersion blender, and here comes a puree. All right, 2 hands. Oh, that's all done. I did have to use 2 hands. Now, it doesn't look super creamy to me, but oh my God, this taste on this, it's one of those spine-tingling moments where it's just so luxurious, you can't believe you never had it before. So yeah, totally awesome, even if it doesn't look smooth. All right, I'm working on my salsa verde. So I tasted the tomatillos just by themselves, have to know what I'm dealing with, right? And oh my gosh, they taste a lot like a tomato, but no way, they taste kind of like limey already. And then there's a sweet note because they got broiled, so super yummy. In addition to that already incredible ingredient, which might be good just by itself, pureed over something, that's something to try. I've also included some of the serrano, some cilantro, some onion. If you don't like raw onion, soak it in water, cold water for 10 minutes and it'll take out the bite. Okay, so there's my salsa verde. It's dynamite. It's spicy. It's sharp. I put a lime in there as well, a juice of a lime. And then I added a little olive oil just to cut the lime down a bit. Yum. There's really only 2 things left to do. I need to saute up my rice with the cilantro to make a green rice, and then I'm going to sear off my tuna, which I have brushed canola oil on because it has a better smoke point. And I put it on the fish, not in the pan, because in the pan it would totally just catch fire. So here, when you put that in the pan, there's no oxygen, so it can't catch fire, but it will help prevent sticking. It does what it needs to. So sauteing up the rice in some butter with the cilantro and searing up the tuna steaks. Here we go, and then we'll start plating. Clearly, I am not a food designer because that's not the way I pictured it in my head, but the flavors are going to be amazing. So there's the tuna, the creamed corn, the corn puree, the asparagus with the Fresno chili, and the cilantro rice. So the tuna, you really just can't go wrong as long as you just sear it on both sides real quick. You also have to make sure you got a high enough temperature to make that work. The corn puree is the star of the show. It's just so surprising, even though it looks a little grainy, it just doesn't taste grainy whatsoever. Asparagus came out great in the cilantro rice. If you like cilantro, you're going to love it. If you don't like cilantro, you'll probably still like it. We'll have to get Alexis to check that out because she hates cilantro.